Welcome to this special program focusing on the upcoming 2008 Iowa Presidential Precinct Caucuses. The program was produced by the Wartburg College Political Reporting class, part of the Engaging Students First in the Nation project. I'm Nikki Newbrow. With the Iowa Caucuses and New Hampshire Primary close at hand, presidential candidates are sweeping across the two states trying to sell their platforms. For most candidates, these two small states will make or break their campaigns. Some call this the most important election of our country has ever had, and with a wide variety of issues, it's apparent that change is what many voters are looking for. But what kind of change? During this program, we will highlight 9 different issues that many, if not all, candidates have addressed at some point. We start with issues impacting the future of our country, education, and the environment.
Other muscles, what do we got? Your pecs, deltoids.
Students at Waverly Shell Rock Junior High just got done with a very important test. For some students, the Iowa Test of Basic Skills is just another standardized test, but this test has become more important.
This is something that as a school we feel is very, very important that you do well on. We don't do
No Child Left Behind requires schools to test grades 3 through 8. If students don't test well, then the school could be labeled as in need of improvement. Many teachers find that there are many factors on how well a student could test.
And so to say that our students, did not show growth when they may have been absent, when there's issues going on at home, when they didn't eat, when they are tired because of a ball game the night before, or because of something that happened at home the night before, when it's not.
And having the government just look at one test is hard when some students do so well in the rest of their schoolwork.
And to use one test, which is administered completely different than what they've been used to show whether or not our school is showing growth and progress, I think is kind of ridiculous.
School districts must report their students' performance, and if they don't make adequate yearly progress, then they are labeled as a school in need of improvement. Waverly Shell Rock Middle School Principal Steve Quickle says as long as we stay with the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, then there are going to still be problems.
Right now it's very hard for schools, I believe in Iowa, who use the Iowa Test of Basic Skills to have students buy into it, because generations of kids have taken ITBSs and they're seen as the test that you make Christmas trees and puppy dogs and patterns, and they don't see how it really connects to them and the importance of those scores. So until that changes, that's our uphill battle, in my opinion, in the state of Iowa.
According to No Child Left Behind, by the year 2014, 100% of students must test at grade level.
Is it a good goal? Absolutely. Is it a realistic goal? Very unlikely. We just have a variety of students for many reasons that will not test as proficient on the Iowa Test of Basic Skills.
Special education teachers find it hard because no matter how much they might test their students, some might still never be at grade level.
Do you think this is possible? Like, what do you think?
For my students?
Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm. And why is that?
Because of their ability.
Mm-hmm. So you're just doing
For many teachers across Iowa, when they are looking for a presidential candidate, this topic is very important to them. Governor Bill Richardson has said that he wants to replace No Child Left Behind with a more fair and supportive system of measuring progress. Senator Hillary Clinton wants to reform the act, and she wants to have more resources for schools in exchange for their accountability.
And we have some of the greatest schools in the world, and frankly, we have some that are just disgraceful in the sense that they are so far behind in every way. And we're trying to make progress, but we haven't put the energy and the resources and the imagination behind that.
And Barack Obama says that the education system in the United States needs to give schools more funding and needs to demand more accountability. So when you're looking for a presidential candidate, think of the students.
Okay, make sure you finish this.
Reporting for Wartburg Television, I'm Nikki Newbrow.
It's Thursday afternoon, and Dr. McCullough's environmental biology class is visiting the Prairie Institute at the University of Northern Iowa. They are learning about Iowa as it once was, a natural, thriving grassland prairie.
Programs here that help us do some of that, help us save some of that, help us restore some of that national treasure.
Now, less than 1% of Iowa's natural prairies are left, replaced with a thriving agricultural industry.
Some of the images that you could have seen back when we had all that prairie, Things like this.
Dr. McCullough's goal is to have his students leave class thinking green, and he says that's exactly what our country needs.
There's a lot of international pressure, and that alone is going to have a major impact on policy.
McCullough believes that the United States should be a world leader to improve our environment, and says a new generation of students could help move us forward.
I think they're more aware. I think they're politically savvy. My concern is a lot of them are not getting out to vote.
And then if you're interested in getting other people to vote, you can always check down here to volunteer with us as well.
Sheena Rice is with the Rock the Vote campaign. She's working to get students out to the Iowa Caucuses. Rice thinks the environment is an important topic for young voters.
Students more so than anyone care about environmental issues because they realize that they're going to be on this planet a lot longer. And so they want to make sure that they have a planet that they can enjoy and a planet that their kids can enjoy.
Donna Hoffman is a professor of political science at the University of Northern Iowa.
For the mass part of the American public, it's an issue. It's a growing issue even, but it's not the most important issue because jobs and the economy and even the war are seen as being more important.
So what does it take for people to think green? McCullough says the price we pay at the pump.
I think it's been driven in part by fuel costs, as far as trying to alleviate fuel costs, concerns with global warming.
These factors, among others, such as the war in Iraq and concerns about foreign oil, have sparked a new industry in the state of Iowa, the production of ethanol and biodiesel. But like other critics of the renewable fuel industry, Hoffman has concerns.
You know, too much reliance on that industry in Iowa, on corn ethanol particularly, I think is probably pretty dangerous. Just in that there are other ways to get ethanol that research suggests actually seem to be better than corn. And so the amount of money that we put into ethanol infrastructure here may be good in the short run, but may not be good in the long run.
Around the state, the biodiesel industry is making its mark. Environmentalists like McCullough say it has a promising future and can be better for the environment. Here at Western Dubuque Biodiesel in Farley, Iowa, they produce 30 million gallons of fuel a year. It's the 13th plant in Iowa, and there's 3 more on the way.
But I know for every 1 energy input of biodiesel, you get 3 energy outputs. It's the most environmentally friendly fuel source out there.
Tom Brooks is the general manager of Western Dubuque Biodiesel. He explains why the industry needs support from candidates in the upcoming presidential election.
We need the candidates to agree that if environment is the issue, then they need to get behind the issue of supporting renewable fuels and not arguing amongst themselves as to which one's better than the other. Embrace them and help them all move forward.
Biodiesel production in the state of Iowa has gone from 1 million gallons 3 years ago to over 100 million gallons this past year.
The industry is obviously growing because the world's saying we want green, and the biodiesel industry and the ethanol industry have stepped up and said we can provide you green fuel that's safe for the environment and helps you be less dependent.
I'm looking for direction. I would like our country to become a leader, a recognized leader in global environmentalism. And I think most environmentalism needs to start at home. And I think a lot of what we do is talk without as much action as I would like to see.
I need you to fill that out for me.
All right. The Iowa caucuses are just around the corner. And in the next year, America will have a new president and a new vision for our country. What that vision will be, who knows? But with a little education about our environment, it seems that a green generation could be born.
It also helps, and you'll notice along.
The war in Iraq has raised many concerns for voters. Some wonder when the war will end. Others want our troops to stay and get the job done first. And aside from the war, many feel America needs to put a stop to illegal immigration to protect the security of our country. In this segment of our program, we move to issues regarding the war in Iraq and homeland security.
Having a better education is having a better life for a girl from a working-class family in Mexico. Rocio Ayar Ocio came to the United States 20 years ago and says her opportunities would have decreased if her family had stayed back.
Better life for our family meant coming here and having an opportunity for us as kids, my siblings, to go to college, to go to university and graduate and have a college degree. So most of it is just having not necessarily basic necessities, because, I mean, people are not dying of hunger over there either, but it's just meeting those extra necessities.
The current immigration flow started with the 1982 economic crisis in Mexico. The number of immigrants grew with the economic development in America in the 1990s. Census Bureau data estimates about 12 million illegal immigrants, mostly from Mexico and Central America, reside in America. Approximately 7,000 Latinos live in the Cedar Valley area in Iowa. El Centro Latino Americano, a Spanish-language crisis intervention center, has served more than 1,000 last year. Executive Director of El Centro in Waterloo, Iowa, Kim Hernandez says, many children suffer due to family members being away or coming to the U.S. without documents. Tammy Fox, a social worker for 15 years and assistant professor at Wartburg College, says one of her students came to the U.S. illegally when she was little. She had to go back to Mexico, where she had no close family, and apply for a student visa.
I totally disagree with the presidential candidate who says that we should, there are a couple of Republican candidates who say that we should get rid of the birthright. I totally disagree with that. If you're born in this country, you should have citizenship in this country like most other countries recognize that.
Esteban Salceda, a Wartburg student and a Rudy Giuliani supporter, disagrees.
Well, I don't think families should be broken up. But then again, I think it's a trap. You know, people come over here, they have kids here, and they use the excuse of, well, I have my kids born here, you can't break us up. That's wrong. You know, coming here and manipulating this country like that, that's not right.
State Senator Bill Heckroth says immigrants have a dual effect on the economy, and the employers contradict themselves.
There are a lot of employers, very, very large employers, that out of one side of their mouth will say how we need to do something about illegal immigration. On the other hand, they'll hire as many of them as possible because it's cheap labor. It's slave labor is what it is.
The 2008 presidential candidates have different views on immigration. Democratic candidates including Joe Biden, Chris Dodd, and Hillary Clinton are in favor of the Immigration Reform Act of 2006. Which would create a guest worker program and address border security. Other candidates such as Dennis Kucinich, Bill Richardson, Mike Gravel, John Edwards, and Barack Obama are in favor of providing a legalizing path for the 12 million illegal immigrants under certain circumstances like learning English. Leading Republican candidates including John McCain, Rudy Giuliani, and Mike Huckabee say America will not provide amnesty and they should pay back taxes. Other candidates, such as Ron Paul and Duncan Hunter, want to strengthen borders. Mitt Romney and Fred Thompson want to give temporary visas based on each individual case. And Tom Tancredo wants to deport illegal immigrants. Studies show illegal immigrants between ages 16 and 29 resort to crimes, such as identity theft, fraudulent green cards, tax evasion. The government is trying to strengthen border security through the Border Patrol, a primary federal law enforcement organization. Proposals to build a 700 miles long fence along the southern border have also been made. President Bush attempted to legalize illegal immigrants through an expensive visa process, which was rejected by the Senate in June this year.
I believe that every time that the United States has troubles as far as the economy, as far as crime or other things, I think immigration and immigrants are like the scapegoat.
Reporting for Wartburg Television, I'm Sneha Pradhan.
Terrorism is something not addressed in everyday life, but for Kip Ladegi, it's something always on his mind. Ladegi is the Bramer County Emergency Management Coordinator and Director of Homeland Security Region 2 for the state of Iowa.
We address things such as mass sheltering, fire, health, EMS, hazardous materials is a big one, terrorism, communications and control, and then we're going to start getting into animal care. How are we going to handle things if we have a foreign animal outbreak, disease outbreak?
Even though terrorism isn't a key problem for Iowa, there are still issues that are important, such as agricultural terrorism and pork production.
We feed the nation. It shut down first it shut down Bremer County's economy until it was proven otherwise or until it was corrected. It certainly shut down the state, and if the state can't produce the food, move the food throughout the country, what are we going to do What are we going to do? So food security is a big issue.
Even though it's an issue, many farmers feel that foreign animal disease outbreaks are not much of a concern.
We've done training within the county. We've done it at the regional level. You're right. We're not seeing as many producers as I thought we would see, but I think they're getting some information. I'm just not sure that we're all getting together at the same time to get that information. I hope they're right. I hope it doesn't happen, but we have to be prepared.
Another industry that Iowa leads the way in is ethanol production. With many ethanol plants opening in the Midwest, concerns are being raised.
This time, no, we're not looking at it as a security threat. We do look at it as a emergency planning threat. Hazardous materials, fires, the response is different. So we're looking at it that way, but as for security, not. That's not high on the list. There are other things higher.
Ledecky had the opportunity to see several of the candidates speak. All of them have talked about Homeland Security, but none has had any specific plans.
If they put their money where their mouth is, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of money invested towards Homeland Security. Now, money invested towards Homeland Security doesn't come without some commitments, too. You're expected to perform with that money, either through training, equipment, planning, whatever. They sure talk the talk. We'll see what happens when they're actually in office.
As for the future of Homeland Security, Ledecky is concerned and feels it is still a needed organization within the government.
I know at this time the budget for next year shows a pretty dramatic decrease again in Homeland Security spending. I look at that as unfortunate. It wasn't that long ago that we had those 2 planes fly into the towers, but people have a short-term memory, and it doesn't take long before their priorities change. So we'll see what happens.
Do you feel like Iowa's kind of getting overlooked?
Oh, we get cut every year.
Okay.
We've been cut. I can't remember the exact percentage, if it's exactly 50% or it's near that amount from what we had initially. So we're getting cut dramatically. You make do with what you get.
And that is what Ledecky does. With his job, although he thinks terrorist attacks are not likely in the Midwest, all procedures must still be followed.
I don't know that it's a relatively soft target. We're not conditioned to it like the coastal states are. So we hope it doesn't happen, but we're preparing if it does.
Ledecky feels strongly that Homeland Security needs to continue no matter who the next president is, and that the Midwest needs to still train and prepare for any situation.
Whatever happens isn't going to affect just Iowa. Take a look at it. When there's one cow that looks sick up in Minnesota, what happens? The borders get shut down, cattle doesn't move, and look how it threatens the economy. So it's absolutely imperative that all of the, not just the state, but all of us in the region and the country work together on that to get a partnership going like that. And if we can demonstrate that it's worthwhile and accomplishing what the legislators at the federal level are looking for, then hopefully they'll realize, this could possibly be a threat, and we do need to address this issue.
For Wartburg TV, I'm Seth Drury.
With the 2008 presidential election less than a year away, candidates are facing many issues. One of the biggest issues that the candidates are looking at is the war in Iraq.
That Iraq, at this moment, dominates the national agenda.
It is important for the people of the United States and the candidates running for president to set a goal for the U.S. Since the conflict between the U.S. and Iraq began 5 years ago, there is no clear conclusion in sight. According to the online journal, it is safe to say that Democratic presidential candidates have said that invading Iraq in the first place was a mistake. Contrary to that belief, several of the candidates voted to use military force against Iraq. Some of those candidates include Senator Hillary Clinton, Senator John Edwards, Senator Joseph Biden, and Senator Chris Dodd. Democratic presidential candidate Barack Obama has not changed his opinion on the war in Iraq.
Now, I was against this war from the start. I thought it was a tragic mistake. I said so publicly. But whether you are for the war or you're against the war, we all have to agree now that it does not make sense for us to place our troops in the midst of a civil war.
Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton thinks the war has already accomplished what it was meant to do.
As our young men and women who have served our country have done everything they were asked to do. They were asked to get rid of Saddam Hussein, and they did. They were asked to give the Iraqis free and fair elections, and they did that. And then they were asked to give the Iraqi government the space and time to make the decisions that only the Iraqis can make for themselves.
Although most of the Democratic candidates disagreed with invading Iraq, the Democrats agree on taking the troops out and ending the war. The primary issue among the Democratic candidates is when the troops will be taken out of Iraq. Over the campaign stretch, there has been a feel of urgency for candidates to come up with a specific date that all the troops will be home by. Another sense of urgency running through the campaign is that sooner is better.
If President Bush doesn't end the war in Iraq before he leaves office, as soon as I am president, I will ask my Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, my security advisors, to give me the specific planning to begin immediately.
John Edwards' plan for the Iraq War is to cap the number of troops. Edward wants to stop funding for new troops and also plans to remove all combat troops, leaving no permanent U.S. military bases. Chris Dodd initially voted to send troops to Iraq, but later said he regretted voting in favor of the war. Dodd's plan for Iraq would be to have all troops brought home by April 30th, 2008. Representative Dennis Kucinich wants to take the troops out of Iraq by moving in peacemakers and security forces that will take place of the troops. On the Republican side, some candidates want to take out the troops and end the war, and some want to finish what the United States started. The Republicans are less certain about the actual dates of bringing home the troops. In favor of the Iraq War is Republican candidate Fred Thompson. Thompson wants to keep the troops in Iraq. Thompson said he truly believes there were nuclear weapons in Iraq. Thompson believes it would be a sign of weakness if the United States left Iraq now. Tom Tancredo, John Cox, John McCain, and Duncan Hunter are also in favor of the current administration plan in Iraq. Republican candidate Ron Paul disagrees with Fred Thompson and other Republican candidates that support the Iraq War. Lieutenant Colonel John Kibitsky served in the Iraq War in 2005. He feels strongly about the next presidential election, and whoever is elected to be president directly affects the Iraq War.
Well, it's all a matter of who's going to be the next president, I think, whether it's going to end soon or not. If we, if Ron Paul gets elected or, Bill Richardson or who else is against the war, if they get elected, then I would think it's going to end soon. But if someone else gets elected, I would think we're going to be over there for a long time.
Reporting for Wartburg Television, I'm Krista Tessman.
The new president will not only be faced with international issues of interest, but will be asked to make decisions regarding issues such as abortion and same-gender marriage. These issues not only have legal consequences, but for many voters, they have ethical and religious implications as well. For some voters, their vote will depend on one of these single issues, and the candidates have to walk a fine line when addressing these key topics.
Happens, then
In Iowa City, Karen Cubby is busy during any election season, but this one especially.
Campaigns contacting us, wanting to come to events, wanting to know more about issues from our perspective.
Cubby is the executive director of the Emma Golden Clinic in Iowa's former capital city, located near the campuses of the University of Iowa.
We offered all the campaigns the opportunity to do a clinic tour or to talk with staff about the language around abortion.
The Emma Goldman Clinic is an outpatient abortion clinic. It was Iowa's first. Cubby, a pro-choice advocate, is in a unique position when it comes to discussing human rights.
And part of our mission at the Emma Goldman Clinic is to have people find their own voice in public policy surrounding health care, and particularly reproductive health care and all the issues associated with that.
The Emma Goldman Clinic is a non-profit organization. As such, Cubby cannot openly endorse a single candidate. I asked if she did, and she said no, and that it would be very inappropriate if she did. Cubby can, however, advocate for specific policies and issues.
We can take a stand on an issue that's mission-based, and we can encourage people to do their own individual grassroots lobbying, but we wouldn't support a particular candidate or party.
Lately, Covey sees the future of privacy rights as unclear. However, if the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade, the precedent making abortion legal, abortion becoming illegal in every state is not automatic.
I'm cynical enough right now to believe that when Roe falls and abortion is once again illegal in the United States, from the federal perspective, it's going to fall back onto the states.
States would be free to do things. And the states already are kind of free to do certain things because you see different states doing different things in terms of the framework of Roe versus Wade. So if that framework is gone, the states are still going to be able to act.
The Supreme Court serves as a trigger for many states if Roe is reversed. Several states have trigger laws both banning abortions and guaranteeing the right to have one. States including Illinois, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, and the Dakotas would immediately ban abortions if Roe was overturned. However, 7 other states have already passed laws maintaining the right to an abortion if the precedent was overturned at the federal level. Other states are less vocal about the future of abortion rights. Iowa is one of them.
The law is silent, so abortion would still be legal in Iowa, but all the laws that are currently around abortion would stay intact.
Hi, are you planning to caucus on January 3rd?
But do voters actually cast ballots based on candidate stances on policy issues? Dr. Donna Hoffman, political scientist at the University of Northern Iowa, doesn't think very many voters do.
But the people who really look at the candidates and look at the issues and think about their own issues and weigh the pros and the cons and who they're going to vote for, is really a pretty small subset, unfortunately, of the electorate.
I think I'm going to pass just because I'm not really sure. Okay.
It seems that many voters focus on the notion of electability. In other words, qualities that do not pertain to issues. According to Hoffman, positions on issues and support for candidates are largely based on instincts.
Some kind of gut level reaction. It may be related to their upbringing. It may be related to their religious leanings.
Covey says it's these experiences and reactions that can change policy. That's how abortion became legal 34 years ago, and that's how it can become illegal tomorrow.
The political context and the social climate can affect policymakers, and that it does affect policymakers above and beyond their own personal experiences.
Reporting for Wartburg Television, I'm Jonathan Gregg.
'Tis the season for political campaigning. Across Iowa, doors like these behind me will soon open for Mary caucus goers in a few short weeks. It is no secret that the 2008 presidential campaign is only a year away, and candidates have wasted no time on their campaign trail. With no incumbent running for re-election, the presidential hopefuls have shifted back to the issues. One of the more controversial issues on the ballot this year is relating to same-sex marriages, where opinions are often split.
Such advocates of these unions are frontrunner Senators Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Clinton has been a strong advocate of civil unions and/or domestic partnerships that receive all equal rights, with nothing left out. Yet the title of marriage she still feels an historic term that should remain between a man and a woman. Clinton and her presidential campaign team, though, have expressed much interest in helping support gay rights and taking a step towards legalizing civil unions across the United States. Obama has a similar stance on the issue as his competitor Clinton. He feels that the concept of same-sex marriage has become entangled with religious context and feels that it may never be able to be separated. Yet, as a strong believer in equality of every American, Obama says he will push in order to see simple rights like visiting your loved one in a hospital will be achieved for the LGBT community. Chris Knutson of Alliance, a lesbian and gay awareness program at Wartburg College, feels that the issue of same-sex marriage is something that candidates must address and must also show how they will encourage the modification in the United States.
One thing that's been kind of interesting in this political cycle is that a lot of candidates have been very open about being accepting of civil unions. And part of that, honestly, is because the majority of the U.S. now is in support of civil unions. So it's not exactly a bold move to say that you're in support of it, because I think it's 52% now of the country supports it. But I guess what I'm more interested in is actually, rather than just saying, well, I support it, my question is, are you going to do anything to change the status quo?
Knutson, who is an openly gay man himself, does wish to see a change in the legal stipulations revolving around same-sex marriages.
Like I said, some of the things that I've heard people say, everything from society will crumble if same-sex people are allowed to marry, that civilization will break down, all these types of things. There are a number of countries who have had gay marriage for a long time, and their societies are just as successful as they have always been, and so it really hasn't had an effect as far as how the functions of society.
Rebecca Webb of Creston, Iowa, also feels that such a shift in legislation needs to be acted upon. Webb, who lives with her domestic partner of 2 years, wants to see Congress and state governments allow for more benefits to be given to couples similar as her.
Country, but everyone should. I mean, if two people love each other, it shouldn't matter what they want to do with it. If they want to get married, then let them. And especially people married, the couples have each other's benefits, and with children, that would make life a lot easier. And I know there's a lot of gay or lesbian couples that probably have kids, and they're splitting up all kinds of things between kids because they can't be married because it's not right and all that stuff, when it shouldn't matter.
Still, many institutions such as Wartburg College do not offer any type of benefit package to any employee in a same-sex relationship, though many, like University of Iowa, have revolved their view.
Wartburg College at this time does not offer domestic partner benefits. The Board of Regents is looking at it. I've been told that it's in committee and has been for about the last 2 years. So I'm hopeful, but at this point the college does not offer domestic partner benefits to same-sex couples.
The greater problem that seems to be surrounding same-sex marriages falls in between the issues of religion and traditional standards. Many Republican candidates like Tom Tancredo and Mitt Romney feel that marriage is a holy union that should remain between a man and a woman. Tancredo has even gone as far to say that marriage is based on procreation, and population is power. So therefore, a marriage would have to remain sacred between a man and a woman.
It seems that the 2008 election should allow for many discrepancies depending on which candidate wins the election a year from now. Until then, the issue remains at a standstill with each state's legislation. I'm Andy Hudgens with Wartburg Television.
And finally, on our special caucus preview program, we examine the topic of health care and Social Security. Both of these issues impact the majority of individuals who vote, but typically it's the older generation who pays close attention to these topics. For them, it's security after retirement and the cost of health care as they begin to age.
Laura Halverson is a junior at Wartburg College. In addition to taking classes, Halverson works part-time as a waitress at Joe's Nighthawk.
It's difficult for hardworking students like Laura Halverson to understand why they have to pay Social Security now when they won't receive the benefits of it for another 45 years, if even at all.
Halverson has a hard time saving money for her future because she uses her paychecks that are less than $200 to pay for necessities. With her already small paychecks, there's a portion of money taken out for FICA that she may never see.
I have a hard time understanding why I need to pay Social Security when I don't believe that I'll probably end up receiving any benefits for it because of all the confusion today.
The Social Security Act of 1935 created an insurance program for retired workers. Taxes were first collected in 1937. Then 3 years later, Social Security benefits began to be paid. Since the beginning of the Social Security Trust Fund, it has been a pay-as-you-go system. Dr. Orzem, a professor of economics at Iowa State, says when the baby boom generation was entering the job market, there was a lot more money going into the Social Security than what was being paid out.
Congress decided just to start adding benefits without changing the amount of money that was going in. So among other things, they added in benefits that rise with inflation. Most pension funds will not have that, of course. The amount of the pension is based on dollars that are going in rather than what's happened after the dollars went in.
Some economists say the trust fund will be bankrupt by 2042. But Dr. Sula, an economics professor at Loras College, disagrees. Sula says we can make Social Security last longer if we take care of it.
I think it's going to be around for a long period of time. Is it going to be around in the current structure? No, it's not. It can't, because it simply can't fund itself.
Young people are often upset when they think about the future of Social Security because they see portions of their paycheck being taken out for a plan that may or may not be around when they retire.
We need to pay into it in order to help provide the social safety net
for others who are elderly or who some fortunate circumstance, we need to provide a way to take care of those people.
Economists have tried to predict the future of Social Security so that it will last as long as possible. Orazem has his own plan for making Social Security last.
I think I would probably start by eliminating the indexation to the consumer price index, and that by itself would eliminate the problem.
The state of the economy has been one of the most talked about issues in this election. Each candidate has their own ideas about the economy. Giuliani and McCain both say they would allow some investments in private accounts.
I want to have a plan that covers everybody, but also economically makes us more competitive.
But look at what we've done. We've become, for the first time, we have accumulated more debt to foreign capitals in the last 6 years than the entire 230 years prior to that.
Obama supports retired Americans' interests. Dr. Schuhart says he thinks Obama has the best plan for Social Security. Even though Schuhart thinks Obama has the best plan for Social Security, he says he will vote for Edwards. Sula says he does not think that any of the candidates have a plan for Social Security that sticks out. He says if he had to vote for a candidate today, he would vote for Obama. Orazem disagrees.
At first I thought I would have been happy with Richardson, but then he made so many kind of ludicrous statements recently that I said, well, that isn't working. So then I thought Clinton, because at least her husband was a conservative, but she's actually becoming, well, I don't know, she's been on all sides of issues. So right now I'm not too keen on anybody. To be honest, I think Joe Biden or Dodd are probably the best informed candidates, but they don't seem to be getting much play.
Laura Halverson just started paying into Social Security. Right now, Halverson is paying about $180 a year. To some, that may seem like a small amount, but to others, an extra $180 each year can make a big difference. Reporting for Wartburg Television, I'm Stephanie Tollefson.
If that earache won't go away or that fever won't go down, the doctor's just a visit away. However, some Americans don't have that luxury, which is why, as another national election approaches, politicians are looking to cure the ills of the healthcare system.
The U.S. Bureau of the Census shows approximately 1 in 11 Iowans do not have health insurance. However, that number increases to nearly 1 in 7 nationally. Moreover, many Americans who have coverage have trouble paying for it.
All the 2008 Democratic presidential candidates are pushing some form of universal health care coverage. Although Christy DeMuth of American Family Insurance in Waverly supports universal coverage, she says it will be hard to implement.
It'd make a lot of things easier for me, too, as a self-employed person. But I think it's going to be a tough dream, and I think it's going to take a long time to get to that point, just because of, Medicare or medical insurance is not cheap.
However, Iowa Senator Bill Heckroth of Waverly says coverage for all is attainable.
I don't think it is impossible. I think we've got to just reallocate our dollars for health care.
DeMuth says not enough people have health insurance and often don't realize the risks of being uninsured with age.
There are so many people out there that do not have long-term health insurance. Most of the time, they don't think about it until they're in their 60s. Well, that's when it becomes expensive.
Heckroth says health care should be universal, which does not mean government-run hospitals.
What it means is just that it's available to everybody, it's affordable to everybody, and it's effective for everybody. That's universal health care.
Most of the Democrats have not revealed how health insurance will be paid for. Mike Gravel proposed paying for it with a retail sales tax, and Bill Richardson proposed a tax incentive for low-income citizens. Although the Democrats have made health care a top priority, that doesn't appear to be true for the Republicans. Instead of universal health care, all of the Republican presidential candidates, except John McCain, support market-based health care. Senator McCain supports affordable health care without a federal mandate. Ron Paul and Fred Thompson also oppose federal mandates. Heckroth agrees with Governor Richardson that the United States health care plan should focus on wellness.
We do not have a health care program in this country. We have a sick care program, and we have to get it moved to a health care program.
Heckroth says health insurance should be required and affordable for all citizens. Hillary Clinton, John Edwards, Governor Richardson, and Republican Mitt Romney also support requiring health insurance. Rudy Giuliani, Mike Huckabee, Tom Tancredo, and Senators McCain and Thompson oppose mandatory health insurance. Barack Obama would only require insurance for children. Joe Biden says children should be insured before adults. Having coverage is a dollars and cents issue, of course. When Demus started working in insurance 18 years ago, group plans were cheaper than individual plans. Now it's reversed because of true groups.
Normally when it's an employer-sponsored program, it's what's called a true group. And those true groups mean that whether you or I have a medical problem, those employers' group plans have to take you.
Those without insurance aren't necessarily out in the cold, says Waverly Health Center CFO Lisa Bennett.
We have a very generous financial assistance plan here. We do offer financial assistance to individuals that are up to 300% or 3 times the poverty level, which a family with several children could be up to the amounts of $70,000 or $80,000 in income. We still would have some type of assistance.
Despite the low percentage of uninsured, Bennett says patients still have questions about the cost.
I think there is just a general awareness out there among individuals to be more alert to what they are spending on health care.
Another concern for many voters is the rising cost of prescriptions. Pharmacist Ryan Frericks of Meyer Pharmacy in Waverly says his store tries to find cheaper alternatives for prescription holders.
Patients are very open and willing to hear that, partially because it makes more economic sense for the entire healthcare system, and it makes more sense for them as well.
Frericks says prescription insurance can help to lower costs. If patients don't have the insurance, they can try for assistance from the drug company. Thirdly, patients should check for state programs to see if there's help. Although universal health care, available and affordable for all, sounds good, kind of easier said than done, and voters have heard this before. For now, the health care promises continue. Reporting for Wartburg Television, I'm Sarah Moon.
We thank you for joining us for this Iowa Caucus 2008 preview. We hope this program has given you an in-depth information on issues that are important to you. After all, being informed is the first step of becoming an active member of our democracy. As Americans, we are given the right to vote and choose who leads our country. For all of us at Wartburg Television and the First in the Nation Project, we encourage all citizens, young and old alike, to speak out and get involved in this year's election. I'm Nikki Newbrow. Thanks for joining us.